Has the Perth property market peaked? Have we reached the top of Everest and there's nowhere else to go except down? Hi, I'm Simon Atkins, your brand new apartment specialist right here in Perth. I'll also be sharing with you how the big four banks got it terribly wrong. But first, the big points for this update is that interest rates have dropped again by 0.25, so money is getting cheaper to borrow again. So Perth's median house price is now at 800,000 according to REWA, and listings are now at an all-time low based on our burgeoning population growth. So most commentators seem to be thinking that interest rates may come down further. The Reserve has 3 chances to do so later this year. And the other question will be how much the banks will pass on any further rate drops. So let's now quickly check some of the Perth market stats to give us some insight into what's happening now, and then we'll look at where we're potentially heading. Okay, so now let's look at the graph here. Again, we have the kind of Manhattan towers here that I'm pointing to, and then the line graph up here above it. The line graph being the median selling days that we're seeing here, and the listings are the bar graph below it. So as we can see right down here, listings, 2,500. So that's got to be the lowest, given the ratio to listings has to be the lowest ever. Now we thought these were breaking records back here, 3,000, 2,700 odd, but now we're down to here. So stock levels have never been lower given the population. So obviously that's going to be putting a lot of pressure on pricing because there's little or no stock available. REWA normally say, as I've mentioned in previous videos, that for a normal market to be taking effect between buyer and seller, where a well-balanced market, I guess you could say, will be somewhere around 13 or 14,000 listings. So that gives you some indication how low that is. Now with this line graph here, we can also see that median selling days have dropped back here again to 11. So we saw a little spike over here in terms of the listings going up. That was November last year, and people will tend to put their houses on the market as the weather gets a little bit warmer. But as you can see, as I just mentioned, all that stock's been soaked up. So demand is very, very strong still. Houses are selling quickly in a median of 11 days. So that's telling you that the underlying demand is obviously there. And of course, the listings are also just re-highlighting that. So if we look at rentals, I like to look mainly at these 2 line graphs here. This one here being the median house price rent. So if you're an investor, a rental property here is getting a median house rent is $680 per week. And for apartments, the median rent for apartments is $650 per week. So if you look at the disparity between apartment pricing and housing pricing, units are very, very close in terms of rental returns here. So the units obviously getting a much stronger rental return against the value of the apartment than the houses are. So very strong rental returns there for the apartments. And we just look at vacancy rates here as well. So as we can see in Perth at the top here, if we come along, we can see July 25, we're eased up a bit, 2.4%. Although the amount of properties on the market are suggesting that it's not really the case. So I'm surprised it's that high, to be honest. A year ago, it was only 0.6. So I honestly don't think this will last very long because we just don't have enough stock. And as I've mentioned, there will be, with 7,700 properties short for rentals. So this is going to be become more and more of a problem over time. I don't think we're going to get out of jail just yet. So back in, I think it was October 2021, I kept an article about the 4 big banks and their economic predictions for Perth house prices going forward. So I thought this might come in handy at some point as time went on, because I'll just go over what they were forecasting. ANZ suggested in this article that there would be falls of 12% in 2023. CBA said the market would drop about 8% in 23. NAB forecasted a decline of 13.9% in 2023. And Westpac said it would drop as much as 14%. So Perth actually grew by 6.9% in 2023 and 24.2% in 24. So they got that a lot wrong, let's just say. And I kept the article because I knew it would come in handy to show that you have to be very careful where you get your information from. If you think the economists get it right all the time, they certainly do not. And it's worth looking at several points of view to try and get a gauge as to where the market is for yourself. So where is the Perth market? Where are we heading? So let's look at what's actually going on, look under the hood a little bit and just see what we can find and what kind of pointers we are being led to see where this market's actually heading. So there was a new report from the Bank West Curtin Economic Centre that has said that 210,000 households now consider their housing as unaffordable. So that's an increase of 91% in just 2 years. So that confirms that WA is under increasing pressure from rapid population growth. There's sluggish housing, there's supply issues, soaring rents, and construction delays. So while more than 20,000 homes were completed in 2024, WA still fell 4,000 homes short of the National Housing Accord target of 24,000 homes. So falling further behind, and WA is the furthest behind out of all states in Australia. So Perth rentals fell 7,700 short of simply keeping pace with the population growth. So, we're just getting further and further into a hole here. So with WA's population growing by 4.2% since March 2023, and 85% of those new arrivals are settling in the Perth metropolitan area, which is just intensifying demand. So Perth apartments and Brisbane and also in Adelaide are projected to actually outperform housing price growth. So some of the reasons for that include limited new apartment construction and supply constraints has meant a 40% plunge in their completions, and we've certainly seen that over here. Struggle to get a lot of developments off the ground just because they're not viable. And whilst apartments are becoming increasingly expensive, as we've seen here in Perth and obviously elsewhere, they still represent a more affordable option into the market, especially in Perth and Adelaide. So Perth units are actually leading the country in price growth, with annual price growth of just over 12% for units and 11.6% for houses, according to realestate.com.au. Brisbane and Adelaide are also seeing strong unit growth. So if you're an investor looking out for growth and returns on property, as we've seen on some of those stats before on the graphs, getting better yields, getting better yields, and of course price growth is going to be there as well. So some analysts predict that the units outperforming houses will continue in Perth and Brisbane as long as supply is constrained and demand remains strong, according to the Australian Financial Review. So WA also has more pressure because we have the fastest growing economy, and of course that brings more people in. We have the fastest growing economy in the nation, and linked to that fastest growing population of any state. So they kind of go hand in hand. The HIA estimates that WA needs around 55,000 construction workers. Yep, you heard me right, 55,000 construction workers by 2026. So that's just to meet demand. This is exacerbated by a lot of trades that are apparently getting more towards retirement age, and of course we lose a lot to the Pilbara as well. So there's a bit to get your teeth in there, but as you can see, we have quite a strong headwind, and I don't really see pricing stagnating or going backwards anytime soon. There's just too much demand and too many constraining factors putting more and more pressure on pricing here. So it doesn't look like, if you're trying to get into the market, it doesn't look like you're going to get any good news anytime soon. So in summary, Perth's house price is now 800K according to REIWA, so we've reached the 800,000 mark. Stock levels are at an all-time low, as we saw. Weekly rents have stabilised a bit, but not likely to last, with still high rental demand. And as I mentioned just before, we aren't building enough. So money getting cheaper will probably help some people get back into the market, even though prices are going up. Perth apartments are outperforming housing, as I just mentioned, and construction issues are, well, I've laid bare pretty much what's going on there. So lots of pressure on the market here in Perth, and it makes it even more important to seek specialist help if you're looking to get into the apartment market. But that's it from me. Don't see things easing up anytime soon. If you need any further help, my details are in the description right below the video.